So now we're at the point now. Okay, I have already got the entire episode lined up. As you can see, if I change my view to fit in window, right? Okay, so this is what the whole episode looks like. I've done a little bit of changing of levels on specific segments. I've carefully lined up all the different pieces and bumpers and stuff, and we've got an episode that's now over 3 hours long. Yay! So now I've gotten to the point where I've started putting the timestamps into the episode show notes because I'm the only one that knows this at this particular point. So the way in which we do that is by going through and basically just finding the specific time at which the segment starts. So, for example, I've gotten to the consulting writers here, and that is over here in this section. So I'm going to zoom in. Ba-doo. All right. And the way in which I do this, which again, not necessarily the way that everybody does this, is that I time to the beginning of a bumper if the segment has a bumper. And if it doesn't have a bumper, then it's to the beginning of the speech. But anyway. And where we find the particular time at which this starts is in this little field down here. Now, there's a way in which to change the representation of time here from the beginning, and that's in this little handy-dandy drop-down. So initially mine, for example, was in seconds, and that is pretty hard to convert when we're dealing with hours of stuff. So I switched that to hours and milliseconds, and now I can say quite confidently that Consulting Writers starts at 1 hour, 52 minutes, and 40 seconds. So, hour, 52 minutes, and 40 seconds. Isn't this exciting stuff to type in? Now, I also wanted to show something here, which we haven't talked about before. All right, so the reason why I have 3 tracks when mixing as opposed to 2 is because there's often situations in which bumpers lead into one another. And so I need to be able to have main content, outro, intro, and then main content again. And mixing bumpers into each other can be a little bit tricky depending on what the bumpers are made out of. So I'm just going to play this section and kind of explain the way in which I deal with this. So here we got outro of the previous
And on that
segment.
note, I think that's a good place to end. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
So I've got a long fade in because this is instrumental. But I make sure to have full volume around the time that we've got a clear marker thematically so that people can kind of orient to what this stuff is about. And then this segment goes into speech.
Perhaps I was being a little fanciful,
samples.
but perhaps such things could come to pass. In any case, I know I would be very much at home in such a world. But then I've always known I was a man out of his time.
Okay. So this is a situation where I've decided to actually overlap the bumper slightly, and that is because the sound that follows in this bumper is kind of, could be interpreted as a reaction or related to the stuff that's here. So it's close. I know that's a little bit fanciful, but this is how I think about these things. Yeah, so I've actually made a bit of an overlap as opposed to having this delayed more. So I'll just give you an example of what it sounds like when I shift this over. Let's say if I wanted to actually let bumper 1 kind of completely finish sonically.
Always known I was a man out of his time.
So that's fine. But I think that this is a little bit more dramatic to do this way.
And I've always known I was a man out of his time.
Okay. Yeah. So this way, the material kind of connects together, and even though it's obviously not the same thing, it kind of stitches things, I'm taking advantage of the music.
Welcome to the Consulting Writer segment. Today in...
Okay, and then we continue on with the next segment. Now you'll notice that I push things over by about, 400 milliseconds or 300 milliseconds, and I'm not actually going to fix that here. That's just going to be the difference, and that's fine. In this case, we can absorb the shift. All right, so did I get the Consulting Writers in? Yeah, so we've got a top 10. Here we go. Top 10. Scooby. Right, end of top 10, and then we've got the beginning of the That's My Division. Now here, because of the overlap of That's My Division, oh, and we've got the outro of this. So we've got a top 10 here. I obviously have my brain going in all directions. So to 42, and that should be that. Okay. Then quickie, yep. And then we've got That's My Division bumper starting here. So, yes, wait for me to type things. I'm sure this is the best watching experience ever, particularly as I'm not paying that much attention to where I'm typing. Okay, so actually, That's My Division bumpers are some of, on the one hand, my favorites because of what the music is that's being referred to. On the other, my not favorites because of how sharply they transition. I would love to be able to have like another 2 seconds on this just to allow the fade in to be stronger. But that's not how they're cut, and in part that has to do with the music.
Greetings, lovelies. This is Alex
so I
Phoenix
try to
42 with
time
That's
it
My
to
Division.
the timing
Tapping
of,
into the wide range of
the music
sexualities.
And by the way, Alex is always passes things directly from Levelator, which means it comes in about -17. Levelator, for the people that use it, is normalized to American podcasting standards rather than British podcasting standards, which are much closer to their radio standards. So we follow a standard from the UK. Specifically, we follow the standards of the BBC. That's just what I was paying attention to at the time that we established these. And as opposed to American standards, which are more like -17, the BBC one actually allows us to have more dynamic range, which makes me happy. But anyway, that's that. Okay, we've got the closing here.
Anyways, I hope you all enjoy our Rex. Happy reading.
It's not a bad transition. It's just not quite as much as I'd like, you know? These are just the things that I feel every time.
And we're back.
Yeah,
This
so
is
that is
John Locke,
my
and
little
I'm still
overlap.
here
That's
with
a little bit
Hope
of overlap
and
that we
Finnegan.
can afford with these. Yeah, and then my favorite, however, is at the very end. Look at this outro. The outro actually, so the way that I do it, we've got a lot of instrumental there, but that's because we can use this to like build up, you know, the anticipation of the closing. Super cool, staying alive. So here, what I try to do is make sure that we've got full volume coming in over the last goodbyes, or rather under the last goodbyes, and then we hear Moriarty starting to talk, because there's like a vocal hit right beforehand, right around here. Moriarty starts to talk about a second or two, this looks like 2 seconds in this case, after the end of the goodbye sounds from the people that are alive. Yeah, anyway, so that's what it's
everybody.
okay, so it starts to get to
Here.
it then.
Yes,
Let's go.
So we've got,
see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
bye. Here
I've given you a glimpse.
I want to get the that's not a vocal hit, it's just another thing. Anyway, but you get the coming in to lead into the I've given you a glimpse, just a teensy glimpse of what I got going on out there. Yeah, so that's how I'm timing these closings. I don't think that's how other people do it, and that's okay, but I think it's cool. Anyway, all right, so once we get to this point, we want to export the audio. And that means, here, oh no, I didn't put the timing in for the postmortem. Sorry, I was excited talking about bumpers. I get very excited talking about bumpers. Okay, so here in this case, because it's following the exit bumper of the others, I'm going to take 2 and 41, and I'll round that up to 45. Okay. So yeah, so we've got the timestamps in here. That section of this work is done. Now let export this audio. Hold on, I'm just going to do a last save. Yes, and then export audio. Do the whole shebang. Right, so it's 3-patch, it's MP3 out, MP3 options, here's where we get into debates. So if you go for a variable bitrate, it ends up being a little bit smaller, but that means that when people use their little sliders to navigate where to different points in the episode, that variable slider is less precise, because what that's actually doing is changing the position of, that's referring to specific positions within the file rather than specific moments in time. I don't know how to explain that better than this, but variable basically makes it not quite match up between positions in this and when people are in our episode files. Constant bitrate ends up often being a little bit bigger, but it allows the sliders as people try to navigate, maybe going to specific moments or specific segments. It makes that relationship a lot cleaner. And because we have these big episodes, like I wouldn't care if it was like a 15-minute piece of audio, but because we produce these like 3-hour pieces all the time, I prefer using a constant bit rate. Is that the best thing to do? It depends. That's what I prefer. Anyway, Emma usually uses variable bitrate. I usually use constant bitrate. I'm sure that's something that we should decide on what's better, but that we haven't. So use your discretion. Okay, now here are the artist names. This part I want to make sure that I'm using the standard metadata here to make this consistent. So I've got a little reference file here to make sure that I'm always using the same thing. So our artist name is 3Patch Productions. The track title is episode, here. The way, that's how we title things. You can tell how long I've been using this particular file, because it goes back all the way to episode 42, but this is this particular episode, Ace August. That's spelled correctly. I'm just going to copy paste because that's so much more reliable for me. We've got no track number, but the year is 2019. Genre podcast. That is not how you spell podcast. It's not encoded by Amadeus Pro. I don't know why that information is sticking around here. Do we want to add any comments? No. That's fine. That's good. There are ways of making templates of these values in Audacity. Obviously, I haven't set up templates, but if you're going to be doing this a lot, you might want to look into how to do that and how to make it consistent. Yeah, so there's that information that's there. We're going to output it. This is going to take a few minutes. All right, well, while it's doing that, let's talk about some other things to consider. So, after this is output, I need to also be able to attach things like standard art. Now, what we usually do is we don't put the banner art on the episode. We use a standard 3Patch podcast, just a logo that's set to dimensions that are liked by the, appropriate distributors of podcasts. Excuse me. So I keep that under branding. My files are a bit of a mess these days, but we have a large enough file. That's what I use for the logo, so that we have an image embedded in the metadata of our audio that we export. Yeah, so the audio is like wobbity compressed MP3 sound waves, and then there's metadata usually at the top of the file, and that allows there to be information that's useful in your audio player. And now there's a bunch of different ways in which the metadata gets associated. Some of it is like embedded in the audio file. Some of it is wrapped around it in the distribution of our RSS feed. So like all the stuff that's in the show notes, that also gets used by podcatchers. So it depends on how your podcatcher reads what kind of information. Maybe what people see is the 3Patch logo like this. Maybe what people see is the image that's associated with the blog post where we distribute through which we distribute the episode. So anyway, whatever. At least this way we have a standard logo, very clear information identifying this episode is on this. However, big caveat here, Audacity doesn't let you embed image files into your into your audio file. And that's weird. That's kind of annoying. So you have to use something else to embed this. A lot of people have used iTunes to do this. So basically you like load the episode into iTunes. And then if you go here, I'll show you the elemental process of it. So I'm going to go back to, let's see, episode segments. Where are you? Hold on. This is what happens when you try to stuff too many things into a small screen. Okay, I will open up. I did the Doctor Who thing. Is that where you're putting things? Really? Well, okay, fine. So this is the output from something that I worked on earlier, right? Because I was bringing the tracks together. So I'm just going to. This is going to be the. Ooh, no, that was a mistake. I'm going to open this with iTunes. Okay, it's going to try to play things, which is going to be annoying, but what I want is to open up information. Let's see, this has like no information on it at all, so let's see if I can find it. Oh, God. Mixed down. Okay, all right. So this is there. I found the file in iTunes. I'm going to open up information, and you can do it through this. Let's see, song info. Right. So this is actually one place where you can edit all of this stuff. And then you're just going to have to find the file, again, outside of iTunes, so you can grab all those details and make sure that the file has the right name and so on. So here you can go to artwork, and you can add artwork if you want, and that will let you, find a file and attach artwork stuff. For example, I could just add this E-rating image that I use when making Podfic, and I'll be like, hey, look, now we've associated artwork with it, and I can say that that's okay. You can add other details here, blah, 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 blah. Same way as I did for you can add much of the same information or correct a lot of the same information as was added in Audacity. And in fact, that's a good thing to do, to check it here and then save it here, because Audacity its way of formatting tags is not quite the same as others, and sometimes it doesn't play nice with a lot of other people's podcatchers. It's all standardization issues of all that. Okay, basically the point is, if you need to add artwork and you can't from where you are in Audacity, you can open the file in iTunes, which I think basically nearly everyone has, and then use that interface to specify this kind of information, and then find the file however iTunes used it, and make sure that it's, again, got the right kind of structure, and then work from there. Okay. I will say okay, and then there's a big explicit sign on this, which is totally inappropriate for the audio. Oh good, we're almost done. Aren't you excited to have me talk about something more specific? Let's see. Okay, we've got the timestamps. Sometimes I'm nice and put the timestamps throughout the entire file. That's not going to be what I do right now, because that would be really boring to look at. But yeah, you want to make sure that all of this is correct. Let's see. Oh, so close. Weren't you already at 48? Okay. What else stuff? All right. So the other thing that you need to do as the person editing these episodes is that you need to be able to export all of the case files as well. And that's fun. I have a funny way of doing it. I don't know how other people do it. But basically what I do is I make a big file with just like gaps between the things that get turned into case files, and then I open it in an easy editor and just kind of snip the pieces together. So, yeah, I'll show you in a second the way that I prepare that. Oh, you file. Yay! Okay, you opened the file. All right, now let me show you how I prepare case files. So I'm just going to move, view, there's hotkeys for all of this, but I'm not going to show you this. All right, so the way in which I prepare case files is pretty straightforward. There's a lot of info that we don't need for case files, right? And that actually allows us to separate things very quickly. So the way I do that is I remove host, oh no, shit, don't do that. I need to turn on locking. Hold on. That's not, how do I specify that things should not shift around? There's a setting, tracks, let's see, sync lock tracks. Nope. Shit. Okay, this is how I do it in other places. Once I figure out how to make sure that the tracks don't shift around and I can just remove sections of it without causing all kinds of problems. No, it would be in tracks, I'm pretty sure. Align tracks, align end to end. No, align together. Nope, 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 nope. Move selecting when aligning. Nope. Okay, this is actually pretty annoying that it is not giving me the option of just moving things. Okay, I guess I would assume that there is a function that I could select in Audacity that basically makes sure that all of these segments stay put if I remove things, because that would be very convenient. Let's remove sync lock and nope, those are not relevant. Maybe if I'm here. Is there anything I can select here? Nope. Wonder what that does. Oh, that's kind of pretty and informative. We don't actually want pitch. I'm going to go back to the normal one so that it's familiar. No, I don't want to hide it. It's all mono. That's good. Built-in audio. There's this. None of this is useful. Okay. I just cannot believe it does that. Ugh, that's annoying. Okay. No, there is a way of actually selecting tracks all the way through, but it's going to then complain about all the overlaps that we have. So I don't want to be using that. Okay. Someone else should show you how to do this besides. Okay. Well, there's two options then. There is not use overlaps and then save yourself a lot of a headache. There is load each of the tracks and is their own little files and adjust your bumpers, because the idea is that you have like your opening bumper and then your segment and then your closing bumper. We only produce case files for roundtables and interviews and, well, basically like the big segments except for host and post, right? Host and post don't get loaded, but otherwise, and like top 10s don't become case files, but otherwise we turn it into a case file. So so it seems like if you're working in Audacity, you actually need to make a separate file for each case file, and I'm sorry for that. Or there might be another story and someone else should tell you how that goes. Okay, let me figure out what's going on with the episode. I go to mixed. Let's see, 3-patch. Where did it go? We have AUP, yes. Where did you put the file? Yes. Show all. Hey, that's... Oh, it put it over there. Okay, I'm gonna open this. So I described how to do it in iTunes. So let's... Oh, stop it. Stop. Okay, I want to... let's see, I've got these little things. Song info. Great. I want to add artwork. Go to... Sure, let's use the Doctor Who file. Don't pay any attention to how this is organized. This is not useful at all. Branding. Oh, I really need to clean this stuff up. Good. Logo too big. Yes. Okay, we've set the artwork. Let's look at the details. We've got the song right. We've got the artist right. The album right. Correct. The genre podcast. Perfect. All that stuff is good. Yes. We're going to save this. Super. Now we need to upload that. So the way to upload it, aren't you excited to see this too? So we're going to go to here. We're going to go to Libsyn. Oh, I spelled it correctly this time. Login Libsyn. Login is 3-patch. Yes, I am lazy and keep this stuff saved. And then we go to content destination. Content, add new. Okay, so there's different ways of doing it. Aren't you so glad there's so many options? So we don't publish our episodes on Libsyn. We actually only host them on Libsyn. We publish via our website. So the option we want is to add a file for download only, because we're not using their interface to push, in their RSS feed, to push things into the world. So we want to choose to upload, and we choose a file. Let's go 3-patch pod. Now you'll notice that actually this... So I just want to look at the information on that. Title, authors. Okay, file name is actually that. That's good. Okay. So the file names need to be consistent. And our file names, 3-patch podcast 095, in this case, is following our standard metadata, which, as you saw, was articulated, hold on, here. So in this file, I follow a template metadata. Yeah, so, oh shit, no, it's not. I need an underscore here. Hold on, Libsyn. Don't do anything crazy. Let me find this file and let me correct it, because it is, nope, not you. It got stuck in the Doctor Who file. And I'm going to correct it, add the underscore. Good, okay. Now we want to add it here. And this is actually going to take forever because my upload speeds are horrible, so I'm going to go finish that elsewhere. But basically, you have to wait for it to upload, and then you have to click on Publish here. So file only for download, and then you click on Publish as soon as it's finished uploading. And that's how we make sure that the content is up on the Libsyn file. Once it's up there, whoever else that has the right URL, which is basically a standard URL plus this episode-specific slug, which is the file name. It's not that complicated. You'll be able to download it and attach it to all the appropriate things, but all of that is the episode producer's problem, not yours. You've done your job once you've uploaded this and uploaded the case files. Yeah, cool. All right, I think this covers all of the essential bits of producing, being the audio editor. I hope this was clear enough, given that, again, I don't normally work in Audacity, so, and I'm sure there's a lot of fun shortcuts. There's a lot of, once you're, those of you that work on Audacity all the time, I'm sure use keyboard shortcuts for all the things that I was just like clicking on. that's good to have on your fingertips. So good, all of you. Congrats on that. The other thing I probably should have checked that I did not is whether or not there's any extra time at the end here of the file. That's something that can happen sometimes, depending on the editor. I did not check that. So it could be that our file is got some empty airspace. I will check that in another editor. One way to check all this kind of stuff is to just load it in a new project and see what it looks like. And that way you can just make sure that the file is appropriately shaped. Okay, I'm going to save this one last time and quit this because that is all for here. Thank you for paying attention to way too much content and having me babble while you look at a very basic screen. Okay, toodles.